Once upon a time, James Cameron, the director of Avatar, called testosterone a toxin that you have to slowly work out of your system. He made this statement while trying to explain why he said some nasty things to some studio executives back in the day. But is Mr. Cameron right here? Is testosterone the main source of toxicity and aggression? To investigate this, let's take a field trip to jail. In 1987, researchers took saliva samples from about 700 male prisoners. They then ranked them based on testosterone levels and looked at why they had been put in prison. The results showed that inmates who had higher testosterone levels had committed more violent crimes, while inmates who had lower testosterone tended to be in jail for committing nonviolent crimes like theft of property. That's not a good look for testosterone so far, but this is simply a correlation. It doesn't tell us causal direction, which means it could be that being violent increases testosterone, not the other way around. So to test if testosterone is actually causing aggression, we need to look at a subtraction study, meaning we need to look at what happens when you remove the ability to produce testosterone. This can be done through castration, and studies on animals and humans both show dramatic decreases in aggression after it's done. And then if you restore the testosterone levels through injections, the levels of aggression will return to the same level that they were before castration. So that's pretty much case closed, right? Testosterone does cause aggression then. Or does it? You see, there's a pretty big problem with this conclusion, and that is the fact that there's a lot of people walking around in the world today with high levels of testosterone that are not aggressive or violent. If testosterone is the root cause of aggression, then high levels of testosterone should predict aggressive behavior. But this isn't the case. So where does that leave us? Well, the prevailing hypothesis on how testosterone affects behavior is now well over 30 years old, and it still really hasn't become that well known in the general public. The challenge hypothesis was proposed in 1990 by a behavioral endocrinologist named John Wingfield. And this hypothesis states that testosterone will increase aggression only when some kind of challenge is involved. But it's not just aggression that becomes more likely. Testosterone will make you do whatever it is that you need to do in order to maintain your status. And status is generally something we decide to care about. So this makes testosterone's effects incredibly context dependent. If we give the CEO of a charity organization a bunch of testosterone, the most likely outcome is that their community is going to benefit from a lot more charity. Similarly, if you're an MMA fighter, testosterone is going to make you an even meaner MMA fighter. What this all means is that if testosterone is making someone more aggressive, it's because they've somehow come to the conclusion that the way they defend their status is by being aggressive. One final study does a great job of driving this point home. There's something called the ultimatum game, and it's a really common method of studying pro-social and anti-social behavior. In the ultimatum game, there are two players. One player is given $100 and has to decide how much of it they're going to offer the other player. If the other player accepts the offer, then they both walk away with some cash in hand. But if the offer is too low, the other player might reject it, and then both players get nothing. This game was played to test the effects of testosterone on behavior. Participants were given either a dose of testosterone or a placebo. And interestingly, those who got testosterone made higher offers while playing the game. That's not exactly an act of aggression, is it? It's cooperation. Testosterone increased pro-social behavior in this situation. Why? Because you only win the ultimatum game when you walk away with some money. And the best way to do that is to give a decent offer to player 2. Testosterone wants you to win, and in this situation, winning is dependent on cooperating. But what's really funny about this test is that there were trials done where people were given a placebo, but they thought they got a dose of testosterone. In this situation, people made lower offers, and this demonstrates the effect of their belief about testosterone. When people expect testosterone to make them meaner, they'll act that way if they're given a placebo. So this shows us two things. One, people are generally uninformed about the effects of testosterone. And two, the placebo effect is a real thing. So to summarize, testosterone does not inherently make people aggressive. Instead, it makes them more likely to do whatever it is that will preserve their status.